What should I do if I ate thinking Fajr had not yet arrived? So this is essentially the same question from a different perspective. Let's say I'm having suhoor, right? And I'm eating thinking it's not Fajr yet. And then I rise from the table and somebody comes into the room and they say, did you just eat now? It's been Fajr for the last 5 minutes. So essentially this person was eating thinking that it wasn't Fajr yet. What should they do? Should they just say, well, I didn't know, so it's fine? No, the answer is their fast is not valid, right? They would have to continue fasting for the rest of that day, but they have to make up for that day later on, because it has now become clear, evidence has actually been presented that they were in fact eating when it was already Fajr. So essentially they are not fasting for that day, but they cannot eat. They have to continue acting like they are fasting, so to speak, because of the virtue of Ramadan. And then there's a few other points that we can also mention here. The one is the 15-minute rule before the adhan. So some calendars, they explicitly mention that you should stop eating 15 minutes before the adhan. This is a recommendation. It's a precautious recommendation, but it's not a fiqh ruling per se, that you have to follow. And Allah knows best. The second issue is for anyone who has been excused from fasting, whether that be a lady in her menstrual cycle or in postpartum, postnatal bleeding, or whether that be somebody because of ill health. Everyone should be respecting the month of Ramadan, regardless of whether they're actually fasting or not. And what do I mean thereby? If you have been excused by the Sharia not to fast, fine, so you can eat, but you should be eating very privately. You should be eating very privately and always trying to sort of get rid of the evidence. You're not committing any sin, but it's out of evidence for the month of Ramadan that we should do this. So it would be very inappropriate for Muslims who have been excused from fasting to eat publicly or to go and sit at a restaurant for lunch or something of the sort. Very, very inappropriate, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. طيب, we move on to the next question, inshallah. What should I do if I ate because the call to pray for Maghrib was called earlier? This is the same question, but from the other side of the spectrum. The first was about eating thinking that it's not Fajr yet, and this one is eating thinking that it's already Maghrib, but it hasn't yet reached the waqt of Maghrib. So again, the same thing applies in terms of the adhan. But if you assume that your adhan is correct, right? If you assume that your adhan is correct and you know that adhan is marking sunset, when the disk of the sun disappears from the horizon, and you ate before that time, thinking that time had arrived already, that the adhan had sounded already, then unfortunately you would have to make up for that day later on, right? We cannot say in this example again, look, I didn't know, it wasn't my fault, I thought that Maghrib had entered. That argument wouldn't be valid. You would have to make up for that day later, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.